So you put all these things together: anti-abortion, anti-birth control, anti-community, and you roll this hodgepodge all together, and what you end up with is this hopeless, insatiable addiction to jobs. Yeah, I think I'm gonna I'm gonna go into politics. Yeah, you are too, Tommy. You talk good, you know. Yeah, I think I'm gonna do that. But why? Well, you get to wear the nice clothes, you get to be in the important buildings and have the nice shiny shoes and all. Yes, but what are you going to do? But I don't know. What should I do? Well, we need jobs. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to fight for jobs. I'm going to fight. I'm going to work for them jobs. I'm going to fight for them jobs. We need jobs, jobs, jobs. Well, the other part of this thing that we often hear, aside from jobs, 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 as being apparently the sole purpose of government, is we have to have a strong defense. We don't hear that much anymore because I guess the defense plants are all booming, and Obama's got wars going on all over the world. So, you know, they're all happy. Yeah, I guess we're doing okay in the War Department. And all of these guys are, you know, they're still fighting communism or terrorism, or it's all the same thing. I don't know. But one of the things that I think people don't know about is that the United States government has possibly one of the most successful socialist programs ever launched or deployed, or however you want to look at it. And these things are called government-owned, contract-operated plants and facilities. And this is something that the government has done from going back to the rearmament in World War II. In other words, they own a defense plant. They own the property. They own all of the tools and the equipment, the buildings, so on and so forth. It's the government-owned company. But they hire somebody to operate it. Like, for instance, I think it was the M1 tanks. They had Chrysler run that, Lee Iacocca or something. I don't know. I'm not sure about it. You could research it. It's all online. So far, you better go after it quick. You know, it'll be classified as a national security concern or something. But one of my solutions is, and I mentioned this in my other vlogs, is you have this situation by the concentration of population, the creation of urban areas, suburbs, and so on and so forth, where you essentially deprive people of their right to the earth. And people will argue about this. Well, you know, how does somebody have the right to the earth? Well, if you stop and think about it, which maybe you never have, probably some people don't, you can't survive without the earth. Everything that you have for your life comes from the earth. There's no way around it. All your food comes from the earth, the air that you breathe, the sun grows the food, and so on and so forth. They should take this GOCO model, government-owned, community or contract-operated, and have every local government in the United States either have a plant and facility for the creation of solar panels, or some means by which these are deployed. This would compensate, serve as a sort of reparation for depriving people of access to the earth for sustenance. You're alleviating the need for fossil fuels. You're alleviating the arguable need for things like hydrofracking and pipelines and things like that by at least complementing and augmenting that resource by using solar energy. It seems to be a very straightforward and elementary thing. The problem with this, and the reason that things don't happen like this, is because people in the government, they want jobs, jobs, jobs. They don't want to do it. They want to wait for it to be so profitable that nobody could afford it, but that businesses will be interested in it. And then we could subsidize businesses. We could bribe them to do it. This is crazy. It should just be done. The government should just do it. When Carter was president, we had these conservatives. Oh my God, this is out of control. It's nearly $1 trillion. Trillion. Do you know how big trillion is? How big $1 trillion? You know, and they really, I mean, these guys just went nuts. And this resulted in one of the largest income redistributions in the history of mankind. You had the Federal Reserve Board raise interest rates to, I don't know, 18 or 20% or something like that, and people that had money, they just bought like 30-year bonds. They were set for life. It was one of the largest income transfers of all time, which led to the stock market boom. It was a kind of a small boom compared to what happened during the Clinton years. And I'm not saying that because I'm a Democrat or anything like that, because I'm not. I'm just saying it as a fact. But that is what fueled that. It was, you know, they took the interest that they were collecting from the securities and put it into the stock market to speculate. Now, it's important to keep in mind what this is. What is speculation? Well, speculation is essentially we don't have really any interest or any need for this money. We're not using it as capital to create anything in particular. We're using it as a form of speculation, so that when speculation increases, it indicates either that there's an excess of money or there's a lack of demand. It is used as an indicator by the Federal Reserve in terms of controlling the money supply, or, you know, as much as they can control the money supply, because it's somewhat limited in what they could do. You know, it's difficult to analyze what the demand is. Is the demand for money, is it for something that's real, for some useful purposes, or is it just a demand in terms of speculation? Now, another part of this is that people complain about taxation, but they never complain about retailing. When I was a young man, one of the first jobs that I had was in retailing. And I learned about retailing markup. And what this person that I worked for did essentially was they just marked everything up. They bought things arguably wholesale, but not really wholesale, far removed from the terminal market. And they marked it up 50%. So each buyer and seller transaction that you have from the terminal market has a markup on these various articles, commodities, and things like that before you yourself purchases them. You know, their final destination, their final use, particularly in terms of food. You know, but nobody ever stops to think about that, or nobody ever complains about it. But essentially what you're talking about is you're talking about the same thing that you're complaining about in terms of mortgages and things. What does this actual money supply, this part of the money supply, what does it represent? All that it represents is that some person is doing a retail markup. potentially they're going to use it to make Cadillac payments or gold chain payments, purchases, or whatever, you know. But on the other hand, they might be using it for something else. They have girlfriends, or they hire prostitutes or something, you know. And then you say, well, that's still all right, Tommy, because then the prostitutes, you know, buy his Gucci heels or whatever, you know. Or others will say, well, no, they don't. They buy drugs. And rather than the money going into drugs, we'd rather it go into Gucci heels, I guess. I don't know. But it's an important part of this whole morass with money supply and speculation and things like that. But when these indicators arise, you're increasing the money supply, and you have what they sometimes refer to as stagflation. Okay? Instead of finding things to sop up the excess amount of dollars, like oil, for instance, continually raising the price of oil because your international oil payments are settled in dollars, you could do something like this. The creation of a government-owned, contract-operated solar energy panel production and storage units, and ways in which these things could be tied together with existing utility companies for the augmentation of electricity, mostly. That's where the significant part of the demand exists in this regard, as I understand it. The other part of this, and it's really the symptoms. This computer that I have here is a Dell computer, and I bought it in I think it was 2002, and the damn thing cost like over $3,000. I just saw that the same exact computer is selling on eBay for $72. You know, so how much of that price, and I bought directly from Dell, how much of that price actually reflects the inherent value of not only the parts that make up that computer, but the labor too, as compared to how much profit the company makes. You see, because everybody's talking about jobs, and they're talking, you know, like the Ed Show, we want to bring back manufacturing, you know, but you're not thinking about the evils that are also inherent in these things. You have the same sorts of problems inherent in manufacturing as you do in the things that you're complaining about on Wall Street. And the one way to correct that, and where I agree somewhat with the Democratic-Republican single-party monolith, is by reinstituting progressive taxation. Not just for the ultimate 1%, as they say. Because on the one hand, you're not going to solve revenue problems by raising taxes on just the 1%. It's a significant amount of revenue that you raise. But what you're doing in that regard is you are preventing people from making extravagant purchases that are going to affect what you are able yourself to purchase. If people are on a more level playing field, the articles that you have your choice to purchase are going to be they're going to be better quality. It's going to be a greater variety, because the people that manufacture those, the people that fabricate those, or whatever, are going to have to come to you in order for their profits, rather than selling them at some exorbitant price to some person that has this huge, immense amount of disposable income that they really don't need, you know. Well, I used the $5,000 pair of blue jeans. I mean, they probably cost $25,000 or $100,000 by now. I don't know.